Hello people, and welcome to Auridon. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we are in the city of the wonderful FewCandy. I gave FewCandy a shout out on my community tab a couple of weeks ago, and she's since blown up in the city's Skylines community. And of course you guys will be coming off of FewCandy's collab in Ilos off the back of this on Friday night, so for those that are tuning in for the premiere, thank you so much. But if you guys haven't seen this city, it is truly, truly wonderful. Just some immense ideas from FewCandy, some just like ridiculously beautiful waterfront builds, quite literally lost for words. Just so nice. I can't describe how up my street this is. It's just so good. All these keys, repeated tree patterns, some fencing and a waterfront tramline. Right? There's one thing that pleases Overcharged Egg. It's this. This is very nice. And then we can come down the coastline where we arrive. Some wonderful kind of like car parking and strip mall vibes. Of course, all these playlists and Few's channel will be linked down in the description below today. Of course, there's the magnificent Prepare to Market. This is amazing. This is such an incredible waterfront. And this is all kind of like mostly quality of life mods as well. A little bit of Anarchy and Move It here. Just some immense use of the Green Cities assets. Just the definition of orientation, right? Just everything we love to see. And a nice, super little busy tram metro plaza. Again with Green Cities integrated into it. Yes please everyone. It's so good. So good, and she has just started off with her campus build as well. And FewCandy is definitely one of the better users of the content creator keys that we've seen in the community. How creative is this, right? With the little stairs and a life pathway that's just been anarchied into it. Some trams outside, beautiful. Absolutely amazing. And there's a little yacht club down here from the campus as well. She took inspiration from I think it's Camp Randall, is it? In Madison, in Wisconsin. Just amazing. It's so good. And then this too. What a super clever use of the monument. Unique. To sit up in front of kind of like a maze garden, and some of the after dark lights around the asset as well. Incredibly creative. It's so good. Huge fan of this series, everyone. So if you haven't checked it out, please do go and give it a watch. It is absolutely 100% worth your time, and it does have the OE seal of approval. However, today I'm going to do a build with FewCandy, and I have been eyeing up a little spot here to introduce a essentially kind of low density industry harbour, including a couple of fishing harbours, some car parking, a fishing market, some tiered keys because FewCandy is so in love with them, and she's also requested that I try and relocate the ferry terminal. Because at the minute, it's just sort of, yeah. So what is this? So we're going to move the ferry terminal for her today. We're going to factor it into a build here, do a little bit of terraforming, use some breakwaters. So because I am so starved of coastal builds in Ilos, I'm very much looking forward to doing this. So let's build FewCandy, a light industrial harbour, shall we? So I'm just going to start here by terraforming out an initial platform. And we do have permission off FewCandy to disrespect the topography today. So we are allowed to terraform here. I'm not just going to ruin her landscape without permission. So I'm going to set up a little space for a couple of fishing harbours to occupy. Let's come into industries. And there is a ton of anchovy out in this map. Touch of shellfish there as well. But the anchovy harbours are actually the smallest ones. And that's what we're going for today. Just a little low density harbour. So a couple of anchovy harbours are going to serve that vibe perfectly. So I'm also going to unlock the networks with network multi-tool. We can come in here and go for unlock segment mode. So we can unlock these guys, delete them, and we can replace the roads on the fishing harbours now. So if you're kind of using some classic vanilla plus roads, so I want to go for these guys. I'm going to draw this in with Anarchy, of course, to replace the road networks on the harbours. And then relock them again with network multi-tool. And we can net these up now. And then let's bring out a little bit of distance here. Let's go for 10 tiles, and then we can start to come out to create the breakwater. So we're going to use the road to create the frame for the breakwater first. I'm going to come out by 40 units on a slight angle. And then a slight angle again as we come out by 40 units this time. Maybe an angle of 140. This also happened in my testing. Not sure why, but it's fine. We can just come in with a little bit of Control and H and move it up. Okay, so that gives me kind of the general spine of the breakwater that I want to come out into the waterfront. So let's go ahead and level out our terrain now. We can increase our brush size so we create a touch more than we need. Always helpful, of course, when terraforming. Is that go much wider than you actually need it to be. Then we'll always trim up at the end, of course. So I know that I want this landmass here to be a little bit bulkier, so I'm going to bring this one out over towards this side. And I know that this one can come in now, which is going to take a lot of the, again, kind of girth out of the peninsula. Let's go ahead and upgrade the road here. We're going to go for a treed road. Let's go for a 2-lane avenue with trees, I think. So because FewCandy is such an enormous fan of Palaven, we're going to build her a little memorial park to sit at the head of this breakwater here. So once our water's cleared away, we can perhaps make a little 3-deep roundabout. Okay, let's go for this one right here. Then let's use node controller here as well, just to give this a touch more breathing room. Okay, that should be good. Let's hide the markings too. And then let's use a little bit of intersection marking tool here as well, just to help add a little bit of personality into what is a very kind of landscaped area at this end of the breakwater. We'll just create some lines that allows us to do a filler. Yeah, I think because we're in the boreal theme, our grass texture here should just help extend the median. And then we can trim up some of these lines. We can just change the from points on these so they don't cross over the main line. And then this one here, we'll add in a new rule. And I'm always a fan of the shark teeth to run in this space here. Change the spacing a little bit if we like. And then we do have access to the Palaven pines, the classic tree, right? So we can come into this one. We'll just grab a singular one, which is dead at the minute, but it will grow back. Don't worry about that, realise. Slightly underwhelming reveal to a dead Palaven pine, but we'll be okay. And then we're going to do a little semicircle nature reserve fence, but don't quite complete it. And I want to bring it straight across so it's flat there. Then let's dive into park life. Grab ourselves a little bench. I'm going to place a bench there, of course, with a sign to commemorate the park. Maybe a bin next to it as well. And then, of course, some regular vanilla bushes, which were so often accompanying the Palaven pines in that city. Okay. So it's understated at the minute, but once it's completed with the rest of the key, we'll have a nice time. So now we can do the terraforming, because I know this is going to be the final configuration for this side of the waterfront. So now I do just want a very harsh terraform line, and FewCandy is playing with some really nice kind of sea breakwater assets. So these are going to work really nicely in lining this little mass of land that extends out, okay? Make sure everyone is pushed in as far as possible. At least up until where it meets the other type of road. Okay. Very nice indeed. So slowly the grass will grow back here and the Palaven pine will come back to life. Okay. And we can have a look at a few of those rocks as well whilst we are here. So they are these ones. If you are wanting to come and play with some of FewCandy's assets, I will leave her mod list and asset collections linked down below. So if you like the look of anything, and have a look in the description. And I think now as the water begins to calm down, the waters are quite choppy around Auridon. We did notice this during our testing. It's a little bit rough and ready. But you get the impression, right? Okay, this is going to be kind of surrounded by stone as it comes out, and have a nice little parkland at the end of it where people can come and enjoy. I'll probably put an asset down here as well that actually attracts sims, so we actually see people coming here. Okay. Not bad, but that's going to be kind of the first half of the breakwater done. So let's come back in with the road network now. So I'm going to grab a 2-lane road with no parking. Let's bring this out again by 12 units. Then I'm going to use those pedestrian cobblestone lanes again to create another roundabout. It's kind of a same theme and palette for the area, so we'll make sure that we use the road in a couple of different places in today's build. Again, we'll make it 3 units deep on all sides. And then we'll grab this road again. Should upgrade that one as well. And this one can come down. So this is where we want to factor in the ferry depot asset, because FewCandy did want it relocating. And she also said that we can rework the ferry line here as well, which we will do. And add in another stop, probably in this little bay here, that can also serve the campus. Okay, so again, I'm going to use Network Multi-Tool to unlock the network from the asset. And then using this same one, redrawing it in, and then locking the segment again with Network Multi-Tool. So on second thoughts, I think we're actually going to relocate the ferry depot over to this side. Looks like we can actually just handily snap on there, which is tremendously helpful. It will always involve us redoing the network with Network Multi-Tool, which is fine. But then this side will do a low-key cargo harbour. And again, we can snap it into that angle, and then we'll use move it and a alt slide to keep it on the same axis. I think that's going to be appropriate. It's going to help export the fish immediately out of the area. And we'll definitely have the fish factory on the peninsula as well, since this is the pollutive building. So let's bring that down to here. And I definitely want some car parking here too. So let's go for the poorly maintained stuff is always a strong favourite, isn't it? Maybe a 40 metre one. Is that something that we're after? I think it is, right? I think we're starting to generate some light industrial vibes here, especially when you stick the anchovy harbours in the foreground as well. And I have signed off the crane aesthetic as well. Don't worry. Because we have FewCandy's downtime is going to sit over here. So this build will very much remain part of his Skylines. So we had to clear a few ideas beforehand. But I think it's low-key enough to still fall as a low-density harbour. And a nice way to use the ferry depot as well. Sits in very nicely against this sort of vibe. Okay, very nice indeed. Let's come in and complete the road network. I imagine I'll probably end up upgrading this to a contraflow system. At some point we'll have a one-way loop come through this way. But we will keep it two-way for right now. The traffic shouldn't be too bad around here. So I'll go ahead and terraform everything against the road network. And then we can come back and start talking about fishing harbours. The next thing I want to do now, the fishing marinas themselves kind of just decorate themselves because they have props on them and whatnot. But the land around them definitely wants tidying up with some key action. And set it as the same height as the road. Okay, and that should just tidy up. Especially from the water level view here. And then we'll move out into these rocks again here, of course, as we did with the Palavan tree, which is now come back to life. How nice. Okay, so a little bit of cobblestone lane and some fencing, a singular tree. It can have a big impact as a park on the end of a waterfront like this. Okay, we will name this as well. We will give it just a tiny little baby district. Pine Hills is actually quite appropriate, but we will go for Palavan Park. There we go. I hope that's okay for you, Candy. I hope you like the little gesture. Looks nice now it's come back to life, to be fair. Okay, I think currently it's the only Palavan pine in the map as well. So far, she hasn't actually placed any, so I've used the first one, of course. Okay, so we've also added in the parking spaces for the parking lot now as well. And then lots more detailing to do here with our detail and time lapse, of course. But for right now, let's start focusing on the next tier. So I'm going to carry on using this road for right now. And I want to start coming up to this level at this point. Okay, and that's going to be fairly decent. Let's come back into another road here. Let's come into a road with trees. So we'll definitely upgrade these into some content creator trees too. And let's factor in an arterial connection at this point. And we also got permission to extend the metro line, so that can come and join us as a metro stop over here as well. So let's build a little 5 deep roundabout at the head of this arterial road. And then we'll use this to connect the, I guess, 3 systems now. This can come off and go into a T-junction there, and then this one can feed off into our area. So I definitely want the road that comes into our area to be straight with this network, and then let's do some nice free-forming, because I know there are a fair few kind of free-formed arterial networks in the city. They kind of flow everywhere over here, so very much a vibe that repeats itself. And we'll do that for her, and that's going to give us a connection into our area. Let's go ahead and get road connections in and power, and then we'll hopefully start seeing some people move around this area. However, before that, I do want to do something with the police station again, coming back into the curved roads and making a little 3 deep roundabout again, using the cobblestone lane, which, if you haven't already worked out, is a favourite asset of mine now. It's nice. I might have to get this for Ilos. Okay, unless FewCandy has actually used it in her build today. She could have done. I haven't seen it yet. Maybe. No, I want a police station on the roundabout here. A little bit of surface paint is going to go a long way in helping this guy settle in to the roundabout. We'll get a car park in here as well. Okay. So I think that's going to be a nice time. We definitely want ferries over here as well. Let's not forget a ferry stop into FewC's ferry network. Again, we are going to have to terraform out a layer for the ferry stop to sit on, otherwise they're going to be jumping like 20 feet down to get onto the water. So on second thoughts, the ferry stop can just go on the front tip of the peninsula here, can't it? This is going to be a much more sensible place for it to come in. So again, I'll grab the height of the water marina, and then we'll terraform out a tiny little lip here. Don't worry, again, with waterfront terraforming, they always look significantly uglier before they start to look good, so just bear with them. Then we're going to bring this down to this height now. Again, using move it to say where we want him to go. See if I go on 3 speed as well, see how the water behaves here. Again, we can definitely afford to bring down a touch more, I think, can't we? Let's also change the alignment. Have it facing straight on, if we can. Okay, very nice indeed. So let's come back into our terrain tools. We're going to grab slope terrain and just smoothing this out a little bit so we can ascend. Snap onto the top node of the roundabout. We'll come out by 2 units and stick to these fairly sensible 2-unit curves. Come a little bit freeform as we come down towards the bottom. There's some really nice detailing opportunities available to us here today with this snaky little road. And then a little bit of network multi-slope is just going to help everyone settle in from top to bottom that little bit more organically. Okay? Cool. So that's going to be a little extension of that peninsula. And factoring in the ferry network too. So I'll get power, water and ferries linked in, and we can start to see a little bit of activity around the new light industrial port. Okay, so we have our keys in now, so let's start working on this top layer. Again, we're going to come back into some terraforming tools. Grab this top height now and just bring everyone up until this point. We can also factor in the metro station up on this layer as well today. So we can use the tiered seawall keys here. Again, some terraforming and move it will be needed in order to get them to fit. And then at this point we'll move back into the regular seawall. Then we'll grab the whole thing with move it. And then we're just going to start bringing it forward. So the stairs look as though they're functional for coming up, making sure that people aren't clipping through the key. And that should give us a nice time with it, okay? Definitely some surface paint is going to be handy in there for getting rid of a little bit of that dirt. Okay, flash all this out, of course, during our detailing time lapse today. But I think that's going to be some nice key wall spice, isn't it? I feel like I'm really missing out on a lot of modded key action playing Ilos because we don't really have that much water, so it's nice to be doing it here. But what a wonderful aesthetic the tiered seawall keys have, don't they? Especially when you have 2 of them together here. Very nice indeed. Okay, so I'm fairly happy with that setup. Let's choose a metro station. I think probably the elevated bypass is going to be the most appropriate here, isn't it? Again, we can move it to centralize it between the two marinas, or the two harbours. I think it's going to be an appreciated kind of design, isn't it? Let's have a look at how close we want this to that middle stairwell. So I'm just going to pull this harbour along. And that way we can get a nice centralisation with the front of the metro station and the stairs. The metro station isn't symmetrical in its own design though, so symmetry isn't going to be a massive part of the design today. Okay, wonderful. So let's bring a connection in for this metro station. And we're going to come out and come underneath it with a one-way road. And this is going to be fine. Create the snap point there, and then we can align the metro station with the road now. So we make sure we're not clipping with the pillars on the inside. So of course we did this recently in Ilos, and it's definitely one of my new favourite things to do with these stations. Having the road come directly underneath with Anarchy is fantastic. It's really nice. So we'll definitely have that happen here. Okay, and then of course plenty of walking pathways. Back into between the quay now, we're going to help increase walkability. Let's go ahead and get the metro hooked in. So there we go, that's certainly starting to generate some beefy looking infrastructure for FewCandy now. Especially again, like we said earlier, this build will sit at kind of the foreground of the eventual Skylines. So to see the elevated metro moving back into between that is going to be an appreciated aesthetic if we want to kind of look to the future. Okay, very nice. Let's actually get the station flowing over here. Bring this one to here now. The line can end, and we will not forget to reinstate the stops on this one either. Fantastic, and then we can configure the one-way network to feed back into the arterial once it comes out of the metro station. So we're going to carry on respecting the one-way system as we come behind the metro station now. And this is where we're going to place in the next fishing asset, which is going to be the fish market. And again, I think a little bit of room for some detailing either side of the road. This is going to allow everyone a little bit more breathing room. Again, we can complete another one-way system on this side if we want. We'll keep everyone moving nicely around this way. And then let's definitely come into some of these little pedestrianised streets that we're using in this area too. To start forming up some frontage networks, and we're leaving basically 3 tiles, or 3 to 4 tiles around the rest of the frames here. So we'll see if we can get some nice repeated symmetrical designs in here. Let's also start bringing out some closed patterns within this little cobblestone network. Then this is going to be a great place to come in with Find It and Plot Growables with Green Cities and start putting together lots of these little favourite patterns, lots of these markets. These blend really nicely with the fish market itself just because of the nature of them. They're almost like, you know, supplementary fish stands, maybe where the less important fishes are sold on. We did something very similar like this in Bavaria. Using these sorts of designs, again, snapping into the grid is always helpful. And then a little bit of dirt path in between is going to help flesh out the texture around them. And also make them walkable. You could also use surface painter, but of course then it won't be walkable. Then just a little supplementary market outside of the fish market itself. Yeah. I have started bringing the water pipes under the roads, but realised that FewCandy isn't actually doing that, so I don't need to bother. I think eventually she is eyeing up the no water pipes mod to save the node limit. That's not too bad, right? We're starting to generate it via API. I have seen some people using this. Yes, there we go. Although they do pop up out of the ground as opposed to using the stairs themselves, but the aesthetic is there, right? We have to respect City Skylines for what it is sometimes, I think. So again, let's continue to create some more staggered markets using nice wide areas and patterns where we can squeeze in lots of different shapes and sizes of these market themed assets, and maybe 1 or 2 here and a couple next to each other on the corner. Maybe go back to a little cluster of small stands on this point. Very fun crafting these little areas. And then 1 more next to it. And then again, during our detailing time lapse, we can come in with a ton of little sort of props. And imagine this area would be fairly muddy, not particularly well landscaped or maintained or well kept, etc. So definitely lots of surface painter here. Possibly even, we've got a whole new tree palette to play with today as well. Probably not some of the pines. I'm definitely thinking even some of the sort of content created grasses and little spots of overgrowth in and around the market. Definitely got some small little rocks in around this as well. Okay, as we see people kind of mooch around this now, and it'll kind of come to life a little bit more. I know FewCandy's got a ton, an absolute load of workshop props that we can use for decorating as well. We could take it a little more at market if you want, with some kind of planted boxes, maybe in a more concrete style. Certainly plenty of opportunities available with the green cities combinations like this. Again, walkability is something we constantly want to be thinking about. Start bringing down some walking pathways to encompass this sort of market. Kind of thinking how we're looking from the arterial as well. FewC already had some of these little rural utility poles installed, so we have used these, but they are currently clipping through the rail network. I'll have to sync them with Move It a little bit. We'll definitely have another one of these poorly maintained parking lots up here as well. Come out slightly shorter than that. Let's do a 10 one, that's going to be appropriate. And again, some fencing can be discussed initially. FewCandy does have some workshop fences, the vast majority of which do seem to be road barriers. Yeah, I think because we're kind of going light industry here, I think we're going to stay relatively overgrown and somewhat rural. So staying away from oil fences, stuff like that, that really kind of hammer home the higher density industrial vibes, if that makes a little bit more sense. And let's just have a little overgrown corner here, maybe like a dedicated commercial asset on the corner, like a Shell gas station, if you like. Okay, let some overgrowth and trees develop around this, and we can start playing with some of those taller trees now. Let's get some pines in. Some of these around the point. So yeah, some of these big chungus ones in too. Maybe just a scattering of these almost sort of pencil style super narrow pines to develop something of a forest palette area. Again, that just almost reveals what's behind it. You know, you can see the crane of the cargo port, some of the glass on the metro. It's starting to put a vibe together, isn't it? Okay, so I think what I want to do in this space here is to actually start introducing a little bit of parkland. I think we're also going to come back through and make this one the two-way, but just use the one unit road instead. Yeah, and keep everyone else moving in the loop. There's some of our fish trucks coming in now. Here's the cargo harbours doing hardcore 180 turns in into the port, but that's fine, okay? And this is going to be a really nice access point for all the commercial that sits around this part of town to come and go from the city with the cargo port. So let's box in the road network now, and then we're going to place in park asset here. Let's go for botanical garden. And I definitely like combining these sorts of things with some of the zoo assets, especially like the birdhouses and stuff. I think I'm going to place in a birdhouse. Sit up alongside the water here. Okay, a little dirt path between these is going to really help bring home those open parkland vibes again. You can get away with using some of the zoo assets. The monkey pouch isn't a bad one, but kind of the giraffes and the bison are a little bit too out there. But birdhouse, insects and amphibian reptile house can definitely be used in builds like this. Let's have a little soccer field here too, the tennis club house. Definitely dropping a dog park along the corner here as well. Okay, I think I'm going to set everyone again to this height over on the corner. So we definitely want some walkability around these two layers as well, which we'll do with pathways and whatnot. FewC has lots of these little small playgrounds as well. Let's definitely put one of these in next to the birdhouse maybe. Something like that. That's pretty cute, right? And then I think whilst we're by the water, for some reason a carousel seems appropriate. Okay, and then what we can do now with all the space in between, definitely one of my favourite areas, to essentially make kind of mock park life areas like this. You're not really setting up the park area and sticking into one of the park themes, you're sort of combining assets together within like a square and then just piecing them together with lots of pathways, and then there's endless combination detailings for these things. You can go very rock heavy. I think we will try and squeeze in some of the larger rocks if possible here. We might not have left ourselves enough room for the enormous chungus ones, but I think certainly some of these can be factored into it. Although it does look like the small playground now probably wants to reconsider its position. Let's maybe bring this up onto the main road next to the dog park. Yeah, I'm definitely happy for that to sit there. And then again, we can come in with some smaller fencing designs now, especially nature reserve around this way. Everyone's going to have a wonderful time with this. Lots of these taller, evergreen looking palms to come in now too. Of course, beautify our builds will be helpful for ridding some of the hideous vanilla trees. Maybe even some of these golden and red leaf ones as well through this section. Definitely feeling content creator hedges and grasses around the bottom of these guys too. And we'll hopefully just get a little sample spice in a minute of what exactly this little parkland area is going to look like, and I think a little bit more fencing, especially around the corners of these pathways, is going to be tremendous. Okay. Very much enjoying modded boreal. This is, yeah, with all the combinations we could have done with Palabim and some of these mods, right? And some of these tree assets. But there you go, you know, a little bit of sample action there as to what we can expect from some open parkland in Auridon combined with some of the park life assets as well. So returning to the port before we look at some sort of detail in time lapse today. I want to bring in some roads here that are not behaving strangely for some reason. There we go, let's bring them back down. Okay, and then let's grab another car park, only a small one this time. Again, we'll go for poorly maintained 22 meter. Just do a 5-unit one, and then we're going to drop in some regular industrial assets here to help fit the theme of the port. Of course, the shipping containers are always a welcome aesthetic in these sorts of builds. Maybe not too many around this side though. Okay. Let's go for some smaller warehouses here. And then a few of these little 1-unit buildings too. Some of the European assets really work nicely with the port vibe. Especially kind of the old red brick on them. Very much an appreciated aesthetic. Okay, kind of this sort of stuff on the corner. Yeah. Just a little cluster of industrial assets there to fill the space, and everywhere around it quite overgrown. And lots of trees, I think, and we might as well take a look at what those trees are going to look like. And I'm thinking quite bushy. Let's go for some quite dense, thick boys here. Lots of very base, quite thin overgrowth around the bottom of these, I think, as well. And then, of course, little pathways just to keep everyone nice and walkable. Okay, and we'll get some parking in there as well. But we can get a feel for it, right? Nice little low density industrial port. Nothing too major or too severe. But it's going to serve a purpose. It's going to relocate the ferry terminal, which we're having trouble placing. Well, FewCandy was, not we. But yeah, it's not too bad. And I feel like that is the bulk of the build in. And we just want to detail it all up now, really. We definitely want to come through on all these exposed shorelines and bring in some of the breakwater rocks, especially down this area here. Do the same node controller action on this roundabout that we did on this one as well. I'll also do the same thing over on this side too. Widen the nodes out and remove the markings. And do some nice little intersection marking islands on this roundabout. Just so it's a nice intro into the area. Bring back the natural forest that was here. This natural conifer forest ran up to here, so reinstate that. And then plenty of surface painter, walking pathways, continuous prop and tree detailing to bring a little more life into the light industrial fish market area here. And then hopefully come the end we can look forward to some Auridon cinematics. So as always, we will be right back. Okay guys, that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. Don't forget, those expecting the Ilos episode this week, FewCandy has built a build in Ilos and it is on her channel. So for those people wanting Ilos, go to FewCandy's channel, everything's linked down below. And for those that want an Auridon, welcome to my channel. Huge thank you to FewCandy for giving me the opportunity to build in this wonderful city of hers. It is a truly wonderful boreal build and it still has a long way to go, so plenty more spicy FewCandy spices in store to enjoy. And I hope you've enjoyed my contributions to this wonderful city, and I hope I've managed to respect FewCandy's and Auridon's vibes and ideas. I've tried to stick into keys and lighting and pathways and green cities and everything else that this really nice city is made up out of, so I hope I've managed not to break too far away from that. And I hope that FewCandy likes it. Otherwise, do hang around for the cinematics, but I will shut up and I will leave it there. Let's thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.